Well, good morning. My name is Reverend Ken Reed Brown, the minister of First Parish in Hingham, the Old Ship Church, and we are offering this live stream worship service from our parish house across the street from the Old Ship Meeting House. Good morning and welcome. It's good to be together again, if only virtually. Good to see you and I guess to be seen. So welcome. Today will be our final live stream service until after Labor Day. All of our live streams since March are still posted on this YouTube site, so you can access those if you like, and you can virtually go to church at plenty of other Unitarian Universalist or other congregations as well who are live streaming or otherwise offering their services during the summer. So a reminder that right after today's YouTube service, instead of a Zoom coffee hour, we are invited to a Zoom sort of a summer service gathering. The link was sent as part of my weekly update email this week to the congregation. Rick Matilla will be offering a message and his renewed connection to nature during the pandemic. Once again, welcome. My theme this morning is when hope is hard to find. Those words come from one of our hymns, which we'll sing at the end, or at least I will. I hope you'll join in. But all the other songs, the other two songs and the readings are some of my favorites. You've heard them before, and I invite you, of course, to sing along if you know them. This first is from Pete Seeger, my old friend, and perhaps yours, Quite Early Morning. Pete Seeger. Don't you know it's darkest before the dawn? And it's this thought keeps me moving on. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now, quite early morning. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now, quite early morning. Some say that humankind can't long endure, but what makes them so doggone sure? I know that you who hear my singing could make those freedom bells go ringing. I know that you who hear my singing could make those freedom bells go ringing. And so we keep on while we live, until we have no more to give. And when these fingers can strum no longer, and the old banjo to young ones stronger. And when these fingers can strum no longer, and the old banjo to young ones stronger. So though it's darkest before the dawn, these thoughts keep us moving on through all this world of joy and sorrow. We still can have singing tomorrow through all this world of joy and sorrow. We still can have singing tomorrow. Don't you know it's darkest before the dawn? And it's this thought keeps me moving on. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now, quite early morning. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now, quite early morning. The time is now, quite early morning. Once again, Pete Seeger's Quite Early Morning. And once again, welcome. Welcome to everyone who is gathered this morning, virtually gathered. We gather this morning in the midst of all that our world offers, all the joys and the sorrows, the challenges. We gather once again, gather to sing, gather to pray, gather simply to know that we are together and know that we are stronger together and that we can draw strength from one another, even when we're not sitting in the same room together, simply knowing that we are sharing this time. And so I like the flaming chalice of our Unitarian Universalist faith in that spirit, reminding us that we are stronger together, linking us with so many who light a chalice this morning and at other times, reminding us of our values of hospitality, deep hospitality, values of understanding, respect, freedom, search for truth, values of having to do with our seeking for justice, seeking peace, seeking to make this earth a place friendly to children and to all living things. This flame also represents joys and sorrows that we share this morning. I've heard from a few of you who would like a joy or sorrow named, in this case, 3. Elizabeth Torrey says, please light a candle of sorrow for the death of my dear friend, Julie Richards, who cherished beauty all her life. What a beautiful thing to say about someone. May we all cherish beauty, and we send our sympathy to Elizabeth and to all the dear ones of Julie Richards. Catherine Mays says, please light a candle for Stephen again. Her husband, Stephen, he's scheduled for surgery on August 4th. That's a little more than a week from today. And Catherine says, we need positive wishes for a good outcome. Catherine and Stephen, you've got plenty of positive wishes from all of us gathered this morning. Catherine says, we are okay, but this has been challenging. So a candle for Stephen. And a third candle, this from Tino Fernandez. Tino says, a candle for my friend Eli, who is fighting a valiant struggle with his head and neck cancer. And so this candle burns for Eli, and we send Eli our love, our prayers for your well-being and healing. And this candle burns as well, as it always does, for all the joys, sorrows, concerns deeply felt in our hearts this morning, even though they've remained unexpressed in words through this time we share. May we now pause for our time of meditation, prayer, and then silence. We pause, inviting ourselves to slow down, to breathe more fully into this moment, become more fully awake to this moment we share. Whether we are sitting, standing, walking, rolling, may we be awake to one another, even at a distance. Awake, more fully awake to how beautifully connected we are, even when we can't see or touch one another. Awake, may we be awake to all that breaks our hearts in this suffering world, and awake to what we can do, one thing, and then another, to help and to heal. And awake to the prayers rising from our hearts, whatever they may be. Prayers for the safety and health of those we love, our dear ones. Prayers for the safety and health of the family of humanity, from our community to our nation to the world, and prayers for the family of life. And prayers of gratitude today, every day, as we say each week. Gratitude for the helpers and healers. Gratitude for the justice seekers, peacemakers, and earth keepers. Prayers from the silence of our hearts to the God of our hearts, the wellspring of our love. And we hold our prayers even as we hold one another in our hearts as we enter a time of quiet, time of silence. I'd like to share and encourage you to sing along today, if you like. Another Pete Seeger song written some time ago, reminding us of the power of working together for whatever purpose or cause. Just my hands. Just my hands can't tear a prison down. Just your hands. Just your hands can't tear a prison down. But if 2 and 2 and 50 make a million, we'll see that day come round. We'll see that day come round. Just my voice can't shout to make them hear. Just your voice can't shout to make them hear. But if 2 and 2 and 50 make a million, we'll see that day come round. We'll see that day come round. So maybe you've got the hang of it now. If 2 and 2 and 50 make a million, we'll see that day come round. We'll see that day come round. Just my heart can't turn the world to love. Just your heart can't turn this world to love. But if 2 and 2 and 50 make a million, we'll see that day come round. We'll see that day come round. Just my eyes can't see the way ahead. Just your eyes can't see the way ahead. But if 2 and 2 and 50 make a million, we'll see that day come round. We'll see that day come round. Just my hands can't make a world of peace. Just your hands can't make a world of peace. But if 2 and 2 and 50 make a million, We'll see that day come round. We'll see that day come round. May it be so. That's my hands, Pete Seeger. Of dear and blessed memory, Pete Seeger. The reading this morning comes from another one of dear and blessed memory from some longer time ago, the Lakota spiritual leader and healer Black Elk. He wrote or said, "Then I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and round beneath me was the whole hoop of the world. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in the sacred manner the shape of all things of the Spirit, and the shapes as they must live together like one being. And I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that make one circle, wide as daylight and starlight, and in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father." Here ends the reading. Well, as I said, my message today has to do with the words and the sentiment in what will be our closing hymn or song today, "When Hope is Hard to Find." I begin with words from Joy Harjo, our current poet laureate. She is the first Native American poet laureate in the United States. Her particular origin and heritage is Muskogee Creek. And she wrote this in a New York Times op-ed just a couple of weeks ago. She wrote, "From my elders, I learned that justice is sometimes 7 generations away or more, and inevitable." Now, this sentence and her entire column was a response to the recent Supreme Court decision, an extraordinary decision, which was written by the conservative appointee Neil Gorsuch. And the decision affirmed that, quote, "because of an 1866 treaty that the Creek Nation signed with the United States, much of Oklahoma is still sovereign tribal land, indeed, almost half of Oklahoma. Yes, justice is sometimes 7 generations or more away." Here's some more of what Justice Gorsuch wrote. "On the far end of the Trail of Tears was a promise. Forced to leave their ancestral lands in Georgia and Alabama, the Creek Nation received assurances that their new lands in the West would be secure forever. In exchange for ceding, quote, all their land east of the Mississippi, the U.S. government agreed by treaty that the Creek country west of the Mississippi shall be solemnly guaranteed to the Creek Indians." Treaty upheld. Here's how Joy Harjo completed her column in response to this amazing and somewhat surprising decision by the Supreme Court. She wrote, "It is important to stop here in the moment and to recognize all that it has taken to arrive at this act of justice. There was the resolve, struggle, and battle, the food cooked to help those working long hours. There were those who picked up, who took care of the children, those who kept walking the long distance of heartbreak to arrive in a reservation and start all over again. And at last, on the far end of the Trail of Tears, a promise has been kept." Now, I quote all this from Justice Gorsuch and the Supreme Court decision and from Joy Harjo to bring home some things that have been on my mind since reading all this, since the decision, and Joy Harjo, and in general too, on my mind lately, having to do with faith and hope, both in our shared lives on the larger scope and in our individual, our personal lives. And it seems to me that our individual ability to carry on for justice or for a good cause or close to home, carry on and caring for our loved ones, for our friends, has less to do with any assurance or even hope, as we usually understand hope, that things will will turn out all right, that there will be success immediately or eventually, and everything to do with such things as faith in what is right and just, faith in the power of working with others, and faith in the power of love. In other words, the sort of faith that keeps you moving in spite of obstacles. John Lewis, who we've been remembering these past couple of weeks, faced plenty of obstacles in his life, and he was a man of Christian faith. He studied, in fact, for the ministry at one point in his early life. He was a man of Christian faith, but I believe, and we see from everything in his life, that he had this other sort of faith too, pretty clearly. This faith in what is right and just, and faith in the power of working together. In an interview, I'm not sure when it was recently replayed on Krista Tippett's On Being program this morning. He said, the good and love are always there. We just need to make them real. I love that. Good and love are always there. We just need to make them real. This is all in the spirit, of course, of the Pete Seeger song we've just sung, or I've just sung. I hope you've joined along in the singing. That my hands can only do so much, your hands can only do so much, but if 2 and 2 and 50 make a million, well, that's another matter altogether. Working together. So maybe, in fact, maybe certainly, hope does have to do with love. Poet Jane Hirschfeld has written, Elizabeth Torrey reminded us of this, some of us last week, that Jane Hirschfeld wrote, I know that hope is the hardest love we carry. I know that hope is the hardest love we carry, she said. And love, this is now my words, love is the most powerful force in the world. So hope as a form of love, sure, whether for 7 generations of Creek people, for 400 years, for African Americans, or for each of us, as we meet the responsibilities of our lives and our families and our work, facing whatever challenges we have, or responsibilities we have, and as citizens and activists. Yes, hope. Hope, the hardest love, and I would add a beautiful love, and love, the strongest force, the most powerful force. So what all this means to me, among other things, is that whatever hope is, it's not the same as optimism. Optimism, you see, might or might not be grounded in circumstances as they are, what's going on. But hope is grounded not in the reality of circumstances, but in the reality of love. So with hope, you stick with it. Optimism, you might not if suddenly things go the other way, but with hope, you stick with it, whether it's caring for a family member or for a friend, whether it's working for justice as an activist, whether it's making a contribution to some worthy organization, whether it's part of this generational struggle for human rights, or whether it has to do with ensuring that Earth remains a habitable home for us and for all life. You stick with it, not because we know what the outcome is going to be or when it's going to be, but because of faith in the right and in the meaning of what you're doing, and in the love which drives what we are doing, regardless of the cost or the apparent possibility of success or not. Now, I hardly need remind us that we are living in an extraordinary moment in time in history. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel optimistic and sometimes I feel pessimistic and discouraged when it comes to how we, in the larger life we share, when it comes to how we will emerge from the pandemic, when it comes to whether we will come around to addressing hundreds of years of injustice, when it comes to whether we will adequately address and meet the challenge of the climate crisis, not to mention whether we will elect those this November who are equal to all these challenges and who honor the health of committed to the health of our democracy. But, as said, I've come to realize that whether I'm pessimistic on Tuesday or optimistic on Thursday is pretty much beside the point. What matters is that I continue with hope, as I've been describing it this morning. Hope with faith in the right, as best I understand it, with faith in the power of working together. And we know there is that power and the power of love as we work together for a good cause. Say the next word, sing the next song, march the next march if we're moved, make the next donation to some worthy organization, write the next postcard encouraging fellow citizens to vote. And of course, as we care for one another in our family and among our friends. And all this, everything I've been saying this morning, and certainly what I've just been saying, all this is grounded in a deep and abiding sense, for me anyway, a deep and abiding sense of who we are as human beings, sharing this earth with myriad other forms of life. As the ancient traditions each affirm, each in their own way, children of one God, all part of the Buddhist net of Indra. However it's expressed, one tapestry of life, many hoops, as Black Elk affirmed, making one circle of life. So it is, so may it always be, as together we keep on. Well, as I've mentioned a couple times, we're going to sing from our hymn book, Come Sing a Song with Me, and I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. A rose in the winter time. Well, as I said at the outset, in case some of you missed it, this is our final live stream service until the Sunday after Labor Day. I will miss sharing my thoughts with you and seeing you each week in my mind's eye anyway, but I'll be back, and I hope you'll be back. And you will never be far from my thoughts and prayers. So meanwhile, be safe, be well, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of everyone as best you can, because though we each are only one, together, that is another matter altogether. And I conclude with these words, a poem that we've shared before by Shanaag Pugh. Sometimes things don't go, after all, from bad to worse. Some years Muscadel faces down frost. Some years Muscadel faces down frost. Green thrives, the crops don't fail. Sometimes a man aims high and all goes well. A people sometimes will step back from war, elect an honest man, decide they care enough that they can't leave some stranger poor. Some men become what they were born for. Sometimes our best intentions do not go amiss. Sometimes we do as we were meant to. The sun will sometimes melt a field of sorrow that seemed hard frozen. May it happen for you. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. May you take this light in your hearts, in your lives, wherever you go, wherever we each go, this light of faith and hope and love. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. So long for now.